Don't measure your leadership by the noise you make, but by the echoes you leave behind. A quote from an anonymous author. Welcome to the Leadership Edge. I'm Joe Glazer. And this is where we cut through all of that noise, we put it aside, and we get real about what it takes to lead with courage, candor, and heart. After more than 26 years of leading teams, I've learned that leadership isn't about titles or recognition. It's not about what's on the scorecard. It's about impact. It's about growth, and it's about the legacy you leave behind. So get your swimming suits or your swim trunks on because we are about to dive in, my friends. Now, that line, that quote, hits me hard because it reminds me that leadership isn't about being the loudest voice in the room. It's not about being the flashiest or even the hardest working leader on paper. It's about the echo that you leave behind as a leader, the way people feel, the way they grow, and the way they succeed long after their time with you has passed. And here's the challenge. Not every leader leads that way. Some leaders are heart first, fully invested in their people, and others maybe a little bit more self focused. They're more concerned about titles and recognitions and promotions, or maybe even their own comfort. So, how do you keep your poise when leadership styles around you clash? And how do you stay balanced and heart focused when it feels like the expectations aren't evenly shared? Well, I'm going to tell you a little bit of a vulnerable story. Early in my career, I was that leader who was full of energy, who gave 300% every day, walking the floor, pounding the carpet, talking to every employee, coaching, role playing, firing the team up left and right, giving more energy than I was taking in. And I'll never forget looking over to my peer leader across the store, and they were just coasting by. They were totally checked out. And I'll be honest, it really got to me. Driving home, I'd replay the day over and over and over again. This would be in my head, and I'd be frustrated. And I couldn't understand why I was putting in so much when others weren't. But let me tell you, that's a dangerous place to sit as a leader. Because the moment you start focusing on what somebody else isn't doing, you stop focusing on what you're doing and what you're doing to impact your team. That the turning point came when I asked myself one simple question. Am I leading for that peer or am I leading for my team? That question reframed everything for me. Here's the thing, different leadership styles will always exist. You can't control that. We're human beings. But what you can control is how you personally show up. So that was important to me. And so I built a simple habit. Every morning, I set one non negotiable leadership behavior. Maybe it was running the floor with a lot of energy. Maybe it was pulling someone aside for a quick coaching one on one or role play. Maybe it was just simply recognizing effort in front of the entire team. But I always made sure I did at least one of those things every day. And that habit anchored me in purpose. It kept me focused forward, not sideways, not looking over here. It helped me to lead by example. You can't force someone else to care, but you can influence. I've had peers that have rolled their eyes at my energy level in meetings, literally roll their eyes. And months later, those same leaders were running those meetings with that same energy and focus that I was. And not because I told them to, but because they saw that it worked. That's why I always say lead by example and not by expectation. Your consistency plants seeds even when you don't see them sprout right away. Another story of vulnerability for a minute. And not really a story, but just the truth. I'm a human being. And there were seasons when I just didn't handle situations like this well. I let frustration follow me home. I'd sit in silence in the car, replaying what another leader did over and over and over again. They were living in my head rent free, and it drained me. And you know who paid the price? Not that leader, not me, but my team and my family. When I realized this, I needed to create a reset practice. So now when frustration shows up, I ask myself two questions. Number one, is this in my control? And number two, what is the next positive step I can take? These two questions, that's it. They were a game changer. They keep me from carrying someone else's baggage into my own leadership, into my own life, to be honest. Next, we're going to talk a little bit about poise when the expectations are just uneven. And the hardest part about this is that there is going to be imbalance. Those moments when you feel like you're carrying more weight than your peer leader next to you. It doesn't feel fair. And the truth is, it is simply not fair. But leadership isn't about fair, it's about impact. So here's how I keep my balance when I feel expectations are uneven. I anchor to my values: courage, candor, and heart. They don't shift based on what someone else is doing or not doing. You have to let go of the ego. Recognition isn't a scoreboard, impact is. So I've learned to use contrast as clarity when I see myself uh, s- or when I see a self-focused leader. It really does remind me that, hey, that is the leader I refuse to become. And I protect my team because no matter what's happening around me, they deserve my consistency, my energy, and my belief, and creating belief for them every single day. That is poise and that is balance. And this all brings us to the long game. When I look back on the leaders who impacted me the most, I don't remember their reports or their recognition or their awards. I don't remember their promotions. I just remember how they made me feel. And that's the long game of leadership. That is true legacy. So here's my challenge to all of you: don't measure your leadership by how loud you are, by comparing yourself to others. Measure it by the echo you leave behind. Because in the end, your leadership won't be remembered by what others failed to do. It won't. It'll be remembered by how steady and how authentic and how invested you were in your people. And that is 100% the kind of leadership that lasts. That is the leadership that leaves echoes. Friends, thank you for tuning in to the Leadership Edge. Remember, leadership isn't measured by noise, it's measured by the echo you leave behind. Do me a favor, keep showing up with courage, candor, and heart, and you'll leave a legacy that lasts for many years. Until next time, do me a favor, keep leading on the edge. Joe, out.